Welcome to the Deep Dive. We dig into the sources so you don't have to. Today, we're looking at a story that really pushes the boundaries of what we think is possible. You know that feeling, right? That deep down desire to unlock your potential, to go beyond your limits. Well, getting there, it's usually really uncomfortable, often brutally so. So this deep dive isn't really about feeling better. It's about being better. And having a bigger impact, too, which is something the man we're talking about, David Goggins, often says. We're trying to unpack how he, systematically freed his mind, got rid of that victim mentality, and just built this incredibly strong foundation.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, almost unbelievable, really. A testament to what the body, and maybe more importantly, the mind can do when pushed to the absolute limit. And Goggins has this core belief. He's very blunt about it. He says motivation is, his word is crap. He thinks it changes exactly nobody.
Right. Not exactly a gentle approach.
Not at all. For him, real transformation means you have to actively seek out pain. You have to kind of fall in love with suffering, as he puts it.
Yeah.
It's extreme, but it actually reminds me of Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher. He talked about the one warrior. And Goggins eventually uses that description for himself, someone fighting alone, mostly against himself.
Okay, so let's go back. Where did this all start? Because looking from the outside, his early life seemed like the American dream. Williamsville, New York, a street called Paradise Road, ironically.
Right.
Affluent neighborhood, nice houses, doctors, lawyers, pro football players lived there. His family had this beautiful 2-story house, garden, 2-car garage, even fancy cars. A Rolls Royce, a Mercedes, a brand new Corvette. So you'd think, wow, they've got it made. But that glossy surface often hides something else, doesn't it?
It really does. And the reality here was, well, it was hellish, especially at Skateland. The roller rink his father, Toughness, owned. By the time David was 6, he wasn't playing. He was working, organizing skates, spraying them with deodorizer. He said his eyes were always bloodshot, polishing this huge rink floor with a mop literally twice his size. His brother worked concessions.
And they weren't paid.
No pay, cleaning toilets, concession stands late into the night. Their father controlled everything, absolutely everything, including his mother's money. She had no bank account, no credit cards, nothing in her own name. And it gets darker. Toughness was violent, yes, but he also ran a prostitution ring, used a summer cottage as a brothel. His mother actually walked in on him once with a prostitute on the office sofa at Skateland, a place where David and his brother sometimes slept. Yeah. And the violence. After one really bad beating, his mother went to the police. Her face was swollen, blood-caked. The police, they just laughed it off with Toughness, called it domestic discipline. And then Toughness, right after, flashed a loaded pistol he kept under the cushion where David slept. He carried like $10,000 cash routinely.
Just terrifying.
It absolutely was. And these experiences, they forged this early philosophy in Goggins. He called it hate over fear. It had created this deep need in him to just go unnoticed, to be invisible. It was pure survival.
That contrast is just jarring. Paradise Road, hiding actual hell. But his mother, Jackie, she managed something incredible, didn't she? Tell us about that escape.
She did. It was sheer cleverness, really. She somehow convinced Toughness to co-sign a credit card for her. That card became her golden ticket. Their escape was desperate, silent. They took off in their old Volvo.
Right.
But then the car broke down near Erie, Pennsylvania, just pouring out black smoke. His mother completely panicked, asking, "Well, kid, what do I do? What do I do?" They ended up sleeping in a Holiday Inn conference room. All their stuff in black trash bags, just a really stark image of how desperate they were.
And that journey led them to Brazil, Indiana, which brought a whole different set of struggles, right? Financial hardship.
Huge hardship. They were living on just $123 a month from aid to dependent children. Driving on fumes, fridge often empty, bills piling up, sometimes literally counting pennies out of mason jars to buy food. But in the middle of this poverty, school became this place of really stark contrast for Goggins. Well, he had this amazing second-grade teacher, Sister Catherine. She got him, understood his learning struggles. She, as he put it, toiled in the trenches with him. She knew he needed repetition, patience. She believed in him. But then in 3rd grade, it was the opposite, Mrs. Deal. She wanted to send him to his special school. Her yelling just tore open a Pandora's box for him. School became torture again. It just shows how critical one relationship, one teacher can be, especially for a kid carrying so much trauma already.
And the trauma didn't stop. He even ended up in group therapy, which sounds like it was another nightmare.
Yeah, he described it like a bad movie. Kids banging their heads against walls, one kid peeing in a trash can, another who'd set his house on fire. He was diagnosed with ADHD and toxic stress. I mean, no surprise there. And his coping mechanism, at least initially, to just start cheating his ass off in school. Anything to avoid feeling stupid or being singled out again.
Just trying to survive, really.
Exactly. And the hits kept coming. When he was 14, his mother's partner, Wilmuth Irving, was murdered, brutally. Goggins saw the police tape, saw Wilmuth's blood on the garage floor, and they had to watch news footage of himself and his mom over and over, seared into his memory. Shortly after that, a horrific bus accident. A young boy was killed right in front of him. He described seeing the boy's head, it's graphic, nearly as flat as paper. He said these things pushed him to seek comfort at the bottom place. His logic was, if you're already at the absolute bottom, there would be no more falling.
Wow. That's a dark way to find security.
It is. But you see the seeds of his later mindset forming, right? Embracing the worst as a way to control it.
So he tried to escape again, moving to Indianapolis for a bit. What was driving that?
Yeah, he cheated his way into Cathedral High there. Found some success playing basketball. Maybe a bit of normal life, some belonging. But that didn't last. His mom found him hanging out with 10 thugs, as he put it, and boom, back to Brazil they went, back to Northview High, where he was the only black kid again, and faced just blatant racism, like kids in a pickup truck yelling slurs, pointing a gun at his head.
Unbelievable.
Right. So feeling totally isolated, targeted, he started acting out. Wild hairdos, crazy antics, trying to get any reaction. He said he valued everyone's opinion then, but underneath he was just full of pain, had no real purpose, still trying to disappear maybe by being loud. Strange paradox.
To fast forward a bit, he joins the Air Force, leaves, and hits another low point.
An absolute rock bottom. He'd gained a ton of weight, up to nearly 300 pounds, working a job he hated, pest control technician. He described himself as just a sorry fucking sight, said he had to sew an athletic sock into his work pants crotch so they wouldn't split, and he'd wear the fumigation mask even when he didn't need it, just to avoid seeing his own reflection in windows. He couldn't stand to look at himself.
That's profound self-loathing.
Deep. Spiritual, mental, physical low point.
And that's when the turning point came, while eating donuts.
Kind of perfectly mundane, right? He's at home, eating a large chocolate milkshake, Hostess mini chocolate donuts, comfort food, flips on the TV, sees this documentary about Navy SEALs, Hell Week, and even though these guys look, awful, swollen, chafed, exhausted, he felt this instant, powerful jealousy. Not of their strength, but their suffering, their endurance.
Jealousy of suffering. That's counterintuitive.
Completely. But for him, it sparked something, a question. He immediately calls a Navy recruiter, Stephen Shaljo. And Shaljo basically gives him this impossible task, lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months, to even qualify for BUDS, the SEAL training. His first try at running, just 400 yards, he couldn't do it, collapsed, total despair. It felt like confirmation of his failure.
But then came the mirror, the accountability mirror, inspired by Rocky.
Yeah, that brutal fight scene in Rocky, round 14. Goggins shaves his head completely clean, stands in front of the mirror, and for the first time, he says, he held himself truly accountable. Started yelling at his reflection, "Nobody is coming to save your ass. It's up to you."
That moment feels so significant. Beyond just Goggins, what's the core idea there about taking responsibility?
I think you nailed it. It's not just about a literal mirror. It's about externalizing that internal battle, forcing yourself to have that brutally honest conversation, stripping away every excuse, every story you tell yourself, and confronting that person, looking back, making them solely responsible for what happens next. It's raw. It's uncomfortable. But that's where real commitment often starts, I think.
And from that point, his transformation was just relentless.
Unbelievable pace. Wake up at 4:30 a.m., studying for the RSV, that crucial military entrance test, for 2 hours, while on a stationary bike, then 2 hours swimming, then circuit workouts, intense ones, like 5 or 6 sets, 100, 200 reps each, then back on the bike for another 2 hours.
Wow. And studying, too.
Obsessively. He called it an obsession for learning. He wasn't just reading textbooks. He was writing down every single page in a notebook, then doing it again and again, a second and third time. And the results? He went from basically a 4th grade reading level to a high school senior level in about 6 months. Past the RSV. It's just proof of what focused, intense effort can do.
So he makes it. He gets to BUDS, but even that wasn't smooth sailing. First attempt, class 230, pneumonia.
Double pneumonia, yeah. Pulled him out of training, but he refused to quit. Absolutely refused. They rolled him back, put him in the next class, class 231.
Yeah.
And this time, he found his crew. His boat crew. He described them as thick with bad motherfuckers, a group that would really push each other.
And this is where Freak Brown comes in, his boat crew partner.
Yeah, fascinating guy. Freak Brown. He'd been bullied growing up because of a cleft palate. Struggled in school, ended up in youth detention, lived on his own, couldn't even swim initially, but taught himself. Made it all the way through BUDS, almost graduated, then failed a weapon reassembly test just 2 weeks from the end.
Heartbreaking.
Brutal. But Goggins saw something in him, a shared resilience maybe. He immediately connected with Brown, made him a pillar of boat crew too. He didn't just see the past failures, he saw the potential, the grit. It shows real leadership, recognizing that in others.
Okay, so Hell Week. Class 231, 130 hours straight. That sounds impossible.
It's designed to be almost impossible. Constant physical torture. Instructors like Psycho Pete just hosing them down with freezing water, endless push-ups, sit-ups, sleep deprivation. The goal is to break you, mentally and physically. But this is where Goggins really developed this concept he calls taking souls.
Taking souls. Explain that. What does that mean?
It's psychological warfare, basically. It's about flipping the script on your tormentors. Not just enduring the pain, but showing them it doesn't affect you, even thriving on it, gaining a mental advantage by frustrating them, dominating them with your sheer will. Like one famous story is his boat crew too. They started chanting, "You can't hurt boat crew too," while pressing their heavy boat overhead. Again and again, it wasn't just physical strength, it was defiance. It fired up his crew, gave them a second wind, he said, and it clearly got under the instructor's skin.
So it's about breaking their spirit, in a way.
Exactly. Or like when Goggins started humming the theme song from the movie Platoon while they were freezing in the surf. Just this absurd act of defiance that showed he wasn't broken, he was taking their power away.
Then came that swim. The death sentence, swim.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Goggins had an injured knee, was wearing a buoyancy vest which makes swimming harder, not easier in those conditions, and they order him to swim 1,000 yards out to a boat he can't even see in the dark. Alone. No swim buddy. He's struggling, swallowing water, just barely staying afloat, starts barking like a seal, hoping someone hears him, and Freak Brown hears him, pulls him onto the boat. Goggins calls that leading from the motherfucking front, showing grit even at his absolute lowest point.
But that swim led to the kneecap fracture, right?
It did. Fractured kneecap, BDS protocol is strict. Injury like that, you're sent home. But the key thing here, as Goggins emphasizes, is he hadn't quit. His mind, by this point, it was calloused, like building up calluses on your hands from hard work. His mind could withstand these incredible hailstorms of pain. So the injury wasn't failure in his eyes. It was just another layer of hardening. A setback, yes, but not the end. Okay, this story just keeps adding layers. After all that, another major hurdle, a heart defect. Astonishing, isn't it? He needed a second heart surgery. Diagnosed with an atrial septal defect, or ASD, basically a hole between the chambers of his heart. It meant his body was only getting about half the oxygen it needed. Think about that. Doing everything he did BUDS, the intense training on half oxygen. Doctors told him diving, jumping out of planes. It was like diving with a dirty bond inside him. It should have been impossible for him to be a SEAL.
So how did he react to that? Most people would probably stop there.
That's what's remarkable. He completely refused the victim's mentality, refused any kind of retirement package. Instead, while recovering or doing less physically demanding work, he doubled down on other things, perfected his recruitment presentations, mastered administrative tasks. He kept his mind sharp, engaged, even with stuff he found boring. It ties into his belief that failure is a part of life. He just knew he'd find a way back. He saw it as a detour, not a dead end. Every obstacle was just information.
So he goes back again for a third Hell Week. Class 235, this time with broken shins.
Yeah, stress fractures in both shins. He literally duct taped his shins and ankles together to hold them stable and ran on them. He talked about his internal dialogue then, telling himself, people have a hard time going through BUDS healthy, and you're going through it on broken legs. Who else would even think of this? Only Goggins. Just pure mental warfare gets his own body's pain signals.
Incredible self-talk.
But that third Hell Week also had a real tragedy. Mr. Scott died during one of the evolutions, the caterpillar swim. And the instructor's reaction? SPGs was just raw, no bullshit, acknowledging the death, but then immediately pushing the class forward. Goggins said it was another brutal lesson. Special ops is a calloused world, and it demands a calloused mind. The mission continues no matter what. It hardened him even further.
So he finally graduates BUDS, becomes SEAL, but he doesn't stop pushing, right? He pivots to ultra running.
Exactly. He needed a new challenge, maybe, and a purpose. He decided to run the San Diego one-day race, 100 miles, to raise money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting families of fallen operatives. The catch. He did it with basically zero specific training for that distance.
100 miles with no training. How did that go?
Predictably brutal. Complete physical breakdown. Vomiting, dehydration, hallucinations. He mentioned finding bloody tampons in the portable toilets. Apparently other runners sometimes use them to stop chafing-related bleeding. Just grim details. He was completely shattered. But in that breakdown, he found something else, a purpose bigger than himself, supporting those families. That shift from just personal challenge to serving others was huge for him.
And this experience led to the cookie jar idea.
Yeah, the cookie jar, it's such a practical concept. It's basically a mental list, a stash of all your past accomplishments, big or small, everything you've overcome, failed tests you later passed, tough workouts you finished, fears you faced down. And when things get incredibly tough, when your brain is screaming at you to quit, you mentally reach into the cookie jar. You remind yourself, I've done hard things before. I got through that, so I can get through this. He says it takes real focus because your mind wants the easy way out. It wants to forget past successes when you're suffering.
That makes sense. It doesn't have to be graduating BUDS, right? It could be finishing a tough project at work.
Right.
Or sticking to a diet.
Absolutely. Any past victory counts. Getting through a presentation you were nervous about, making that difficult phone call, running your first 5K, anything. You bank those wins, they become fuel for the next challenge.
He also had that very public attempt at the pull-up world record on the Today Show, which didn't go well initially.
No, it was a big failure. Very public. He blamed several things. The bar setup wasn't right. It was loose. The crowd, the bubbly looky-loos as he called them, were distracting. But mostly, he admitted he hadn't given the record enough respect. He hadn't prepared meticulously enough.
So how did he handle that failure, especially being so public?
This is where his process is really instructive. He immediately did what he calls an after-action report, or A-error. Basically, a brutally honest breakdown of exactly what went wrong. No excuses, just facts. Then he made specific, concrete changes for the next attempt. Changed his nutrition plan. Decided to use multiple pairs of gloves to manage blisters. Moved the attempt from a public stage to a gritty dungeon gym in Nashville. Focused his technique on just barely clearing the bar, conserving energy, even figured out using a straw for hydration was more efficient. And his mom's support was crucial. Just telling him point blank, you're going to do this again. That belief mattered.
That AAR process seems key. Objective analysis, specific changes, try again.
It's a perfect model for learning from any failure, really, personal or professional.
And he kept seeking challenges. Even later in life, 43 years old, he becomes a wildland firefighter.
Yeah, talk about starting over. Working these grueling 18-hour shifts, digging fire lines in intense heat, making $12 an hour, sleeping outside, not changing clothes for days. And what's cool is his deep respect for his teammates, who were mostly much younger. He called them hard as nails. No ego there, just admiration and a desire to test himself again in a totally different, tough environment.
And then came another big discovery for him, right? About stretching.
This one's fascinating. Through Joe Hippensteel, a flexibility expert, he learned that years of intense physical stress had left him incredibly tight. Chronic tension, especially in his psoas muscle, that deep core muscle linked to the fight-or-flight response. It was causing him constant pain. And get this, it had actually compressed his spine so much he'd lost almost 2 inches in height.
Wow, 2 inches.
Yeah. So what does Goggins do? He attacks stretching with the same intensity he attacked everything else. Stretching for like up to 12 hours a day sometimes, just relentless. And the result, he said he got into better shape at 43 than he was in his 20s, even started running faster than he did 10 years earlier. It shows that optimization is ongoing. You might need completely different tools at different stages of life.
So looking back at his military career, the list is just staggering.
It really is. Retired as a Navy chief, he's the only person known to have completed Air Force TACP training, 3 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks, actually graduating BUDS after the 3rd one, and Army Ranger School.
Uncommon amongst uncommon, as he says.
Truly. And you see the ripple effect, too.
Yeah.
Those guys he influenced frequently went on to become a lawyer. Sledge and other BUDS classmates started running marathons, Ironman triathlons. Sean Dobbs became a lieutenant commander and also did an Ironman. His intensity was clearly contagious.
So, boiling it down, what are the core takeaways from his philosophy?
I think there are a few key ones. First, the 40% rule. That idea that when your mind tells you you're done, you're really only at about 40% of your actual capacity. There's way more in the tank. Second, talent not required. He constantly emphasizes that it's not about innate gifts. It's about heart, work ethic, sheer grit. And third, starting at zero. This mindset of never getting complacent, always being hungry, always seeking the next challenge, always willing to be a beginner again to learn something new. That's how you end up running faster at 43 than you did at 33. Constant reinvention.
It really drives home the idea that life is largely a mental game, isn't it? Your main opponent is just yourself, your own limits, your own doubts.
Absolutely.
And the power comes from leaning into that discomfort, purposefully callousing your mind, as he puts it, building that resilience, and knowing how to use your cookie jar, your past wins, to fuel you when you hit those inevitable walls. It's about building that internal strength, that refusal to quit.
And it all circles back to that provocative question he leaves us with, the one that seems to drive his entire life. What if? What if I could do this impossible thing? What if I push just a little harder? What if the limits aren't real? He embodies that constant questioning of potential. So maybe the best thing we can take away is to ask ourselves that same question, what if? What hidden potential might you unlock if you really pushed past what you think is possible?